From clean water to a stable climate, the planet's ecosystems are under attack. But environmental pioneers around the globe are trying unique and innovative ways to save the Earth. This week on Full Frame, conversations with world-renowned experts who are finding sustainable ways to change the future of the planet. I'm Mei Lee in Los Angeles. Let's take it full frame. In the last 4 decades, marine life in our oceans have taken a very big hit. Even so, overfishing continues. 90% of fish like sharks, tuna, salmon, and countless others are being snatched from the ocean and put onto dinner plates far faster than they can reproduce. Scientists believe climate change and pollution have also jeopardized oceans, putting one of our most valuable natural resources at risk. But all hope isn't lost. The world's best-known oceanographer, Sylvia Earle, has dedicated her life to saving our oceans and goes above and beyond to educate and inspire the public. Well, I had a chance to sit down with Sylvia at the 2015 annual meeting of the Clinton Global Initiative to discuss her decades of underwater discoveries and how we can all help to protect, restore, and preserve our oceans for generations to come. Sylvia, first of all, it's such an honor to be speaking with you because you are truly a legend in your field of oceanography. I know that in interviews you've talked about how this curiosity started, and it was way back when you were growing up in New Jersey as a child. So tell me about that moment in your life and why that led to what you do now.
Well, people ask, how did I get to be an explorer? How did I get to be a scientist? And I say it's really easy. You start out as a child doing what children do, ask questions. Who, what, why, where, when, how. They're irrepressible. It's just natural to many young things, but especially young humans. Never lose it. Whether you become a scientist or an explorer, I mean, everyone can have that as a core of observing carefully and reporting honestly what you see. And everyone should be science savvy. Everyone should be an explorer, no matter what else you do with your life, because everyone can do it. It comes naturally. Somewhere along the line, we tend to smother it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that natural curiosity goes away as we get older sometimes.
But it's also a matter of wonder. Everything about the natural world is, everything about being alive, the fact that there is life, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And children sort of wake up with this sense of, wow, isn't this amazing?
It's so true.
Never lose that, because it's still amazing. It continues to be.
Let's talk about Mission Blue, because that's obviously a project that you started, and it really is about trying to save the oceans and trying to preserve these hope spots, as you call them. Tell me about what that is and what that's all about.
Mission Blue is essentially a name for a movement, an idea to try to get people to know and care and do something positive about the natural world dominated by the ocean. Whether it is high in the mountains or deep in the sea, it all is all part of the one glorious planet that is our home, our life support system. We have a tendency to be very self-centered, as if we rule the world.
Oh, yeah.
We're finding that our extraction of the natural world to support our prosperity has costs that we're only now beginning to truly account for. We see it in the air that has changed, in the water that has changed, in the composition of the natural living systems that have been altered through our actions, largely, of course, throughout all of our history. But with our new technologies, the last 200 years, and I'd have to say mostly the last 50, at an accelerating pace. As our numbers increase, it's not just a numbers game of more people, it's our power to increasingly alter the nature of nature. And if you like to breathe, you'll listen up.
And you've said many times, no oceans, no us.
That's right.
I mean, that's how
It's
connected
life.
we are.
It's the living ocean. It's not just rocks and
Right.
water, sand and all the beautiful natural physical structures. It's the living ocean and the living land. It's photosynthesis. It's the ability of green things on the land and in the sea, mostly in the sea, that generate oxygen, take up carbon, things that other creatures on Earth are oblivious to. As humans have the gift of knowing and of understanding what happens in a leaf, what happens in the water that makes Earth a place that's suitable for us. I mean, we look at Mars and say, oh, beautiful red planet, let's go live there. But then you think about, what are we going to eat? What are we going to breathe?
Right.
How are we going to withstand the temperature ups and downs? We need a living planet. So protecting areas that are in great shape. National Geographic calls these places pristine seas. And there are places that still remain. About half the coral reefs in the world are still in pretty good shape.
Okay.
The bad news is about half of them have been destroyed. When I came to the Caribbean as part of the Tektite mission in 1970, the reefs here were full of life. Today, those reefs are gone. We need to look at places around the coastal waters and in the high seas, everywhere, to say, we can restore the damage. We can't go back to what was, but we can make things better than they currently are. And there's plenty of evidence that that works. When you stop killing things in a place, if we haven't destroyed all of their relatives in the surrounding area,
Which we have been doing,
there's a capacity to bring a better place into focus.
And that's your life's work. I watched the Netflix documentary Mission Blue,
Mission
same
Blue,
name.
yes.
Beautiful documentary, amazing story about it. But there's a quote that you begin with, which really struck me. You're swimming with whale sharks, some of the most beautiful creatures on the planet.
Biggest fish in the ocean.
In the ocean. I mean, it's like a Greyhound bus coming at you,
It is.
right? But you say they've been living here for millions of years. We're newcomers in their backyard. They're completely innocent of what humans do.
That's right.
And it's so true. They're just living where they were meant to be.
Right.
And yet we're
The
changing
intruders.
their home.
Yes. But the thing is, we're also changing our home, because we're sea creatures too. I mean, it took me a while to get that through my head, but we need the ocean, a healthy, every bit as much as a whale shark or a coral reef or whatever it is that we think of as being in the ocean. We aren't in the ocean, but we need the ocean as the generator of the oxygen that we breathe, of this fabric of life that maintains the chemistry of the planet, the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, things that humans have found words to describe the nature of what makes Earth a planet that is suitable for us.
Right.
And we now know that our lives depend on taking care of the natural systems that make Earth suitable for us in a universe of unfriendly options.
Yeah.
We can dream of Mars, we can dream of setting up housekeeping somewhere else. But first we have to make peace with Earth.
With our planet.
Yeah.
Right, right. Do you think we are, though, or do you think the awareness is growing? Are you seeing a sea change, for lack of a better phrase,
Yeah.
that humans, that societies are finally getting that notion that we need to reverse this course?
Plenty of reason for hope. I see it. It's partly because anyone can see it. Just look around. If you're 10 years old, you can remember when the world was different, better in some ways than it is now. Of course, we have benefited enormously from our investment in technology. Our lives, our livelihoods, generally speaking, people live longer and they live better. There is terrible poverty still, and there are diseases that plague humankind, and wars. There are lots of things that are negative, but if you look overall at where humanity was 100 years ago versus where humanity is today, we've come from 2 billion to creeping up on 8 billion. And generally speaking, our level of quality of life is better. But there's a cost. And now we are beginning to account for that cost.
Are we grasping the notion that we can't just keep taking?
I hope so.
As people, we just can't keep
limits.
taking.
That's it. It's quality over quantity. That we can't cram an infinite number of people into a planet of finite size, knowing that there's a cost to our prosperity, to every individual, food, water, space, all of it. But we can take what we have and do a much better job armed with the technologies that we now have than we could 100 years, or let alone 1,000 years ago. We understand the value of nature. Eating wild fish is not going to be an option for much longer because it's wildlife. We don't consume that many songbirds and eagles and owls or wild creatures to sustain 7 billion people. A tiny fraction actually gain sustenance, necessity from wildlife. Most of what feeds us, we have learned over 10,000 years how to efficiently harness sunlight's energy through plants to a small number of grazing animals, chickens, ducks, geese, cows, pigs, out of the thousands of birds and thousands of mammals and a handful of freshwater fish. We are actually feeding most of the world, mostly with plants. Most of the calories still come from where they should come from, the most efficient. Sunlight, plants. Eat the plants. Or if we're going to eat animals, grow the animals efficiently. And we're getting better at doing that. And it isn't just the big agricultural giants. It's looking at communities, how most effectively and directly communities, families, can sustain a large portion of what they need.
And that must give you hope that you see people becoming more aware, you see people caring more about the environment, about the ocean.
And it's a health issue too.
And health issues too, because again, we're limited, we have limited resources on this planet. Are there things that still break your heart though? Because I'll admit, I look around and there's a lot of things about the environment that breaks my heart. One of them is shark fishing, shark fin.
Crazy.
And China is a very big culprit of that.
This is nothing to do with need, nothing at all.
Right.
This is not about sustenance. It's about luxury.
That's right.
It's about an attitude. It's about marketing. We've been sold the idea that it's an honor to be given something rare. Well, shark fin soup is no longer rare, but sharks are becoming rare. And ultimately they'll be gone if we continue doing what we're doing. So it's just this artificially induced taste. And it's not anything about real taste. It's about the social
It's the idea.
Yeah, the idea. Yeah. The same thing has been true in the past with birds. Feathers to adorn your hats, or furs, not because you need to stay warm, but because it's the shishi thing to do, to wear an animal skin.
Right.
This sounds really primitive when you think about it.
Yeah.
Dead animals adorning your body. Well, it's an attitude. So we need to do a much better job of speaking for nature, marketing why keeping the live fish is more beautiful than a dead fish, and more important too. And
in the wild.
In the wild, yeah. I mean, I think it's okay for people to have pets and to have aquaria as pet fish, if you will. But again, extracting from the wild can be a dangerous thing. You can deplete areas. But growing fish, the way we grow our pets, cats and dogs and horses, there's a place for this because as humans, it's a part of our psyche to love and give love to a cat or a dog, of course to other humans. But the affection that we bestow on cats, for example, the wild cats are being destroyed.
Yeah. It's an irony,
elephants
isn't it?
are being destroyed because of we value not the living animal, but something that is their fate. They have these wonderful big tusks, and again, it's a luxury, not a need. We should honor and respect these creatures for their own sake, and honor them.
Sylvia, thank you so much for your time. Again, an honor to speak with you.
Thank you.
Really
See you underwater.
Coming up, underwater 3D farms that may help save our struggling oceans. According to the World Wildlife Fund, more than 85% of fisheries around the globe have been pushed to or beyond their natural limits because of overfishing. But as one commercial fisherman found out, just because there are fewer fish left to catch doesn't mean our oceans can't continue to feed us. Former commercial fisherman turned innovator Bren Smith is dedicated to satisfying our cravings with sustainable shellfish and seaweed while simultaneously restoring the ocean's ecosystem. I met Bren at the 2015 annual meeting of the Clinton Global Initiative, and he shared with me his creation of the world's first sustainable and affordable three-dimensional ocean farm, a proven alternative for fishermen who can no longer depend on a declining catch from the sea. Okay, Bren, what you're doing in fishing, the industry of fishing, is so revolutionary. You came from being a commercial fisherman to then becoming a sustainable fisherman.
Yeah.
How did that transition happen for you?
Yeah. So I always think of it as a journey of ecological redemption. So I'm a high school dropout at the age of 14, grew up in Newfoundland, Canada, little town of, a couple houses, fishing co-op. And at 14, I headed out to sea, and I fished all over the globe. I fished off the Bering Sea, in Russia, and Grand Banks, Georges Banks. I really fished for everything. But the trouble was, as a kid, the timing was, it was the height of industrialized fishing. So we were just ripping up entire ecosystems, fishing in illegal waters. I've thrown tens of thousands of pounds of dead bycatch into the sea. I love my job, and we didn't really know at that time, as fishermen. But at some point, it was just clear it wasn't sustainable, mainly because the cod stocks crashed in Newfoundland in my home. So then there was a whole generation of us, we were all younger, and we decided to go on this search for sustainability. We were the generation which believed in science, I think. We're able to, and the scientists were telling us this was the beginning of the end, really important. And then to see in my hometown, overnight people thrown out of work, boats beached, canneries shuttered, and just to see the violence of that in a way, and the shock to the system was really a wake-up call. And I think, and then we were also, as a generation of wanting to innovate, right? And not wanting to just work on the big boats, on the big factory trawlers, but actually running our own boats, our own businesses. So it was sort of a search for that, a self-direction. I think that was a big impulse.
I mean, it sounds like a sort of a reinvention, right? And you have to be willing to do that as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you really actually pushed that to an extreme because you came up with an idea that nobody really had thought of, 3D ocean farming.
Yeah.
First of all, tell us what that even means.
Sure. So imagine an underwater garden. So it's vertical, and on the top we have these floating long lines. And we're growing seaweeds like kelp and gracilaria, mussels, scallops, oysters, all hanging down. And the key is there are a couple benefits to it. One is it's got a very small footprint because we're using the whole water column. And it has a low aesthetic impact, which is important because our oceans are these beautiful, pristine places. Our goal is not to create Iowa pig farms at sea, essentially, which was what happened in the 80s. Like aquaculture, and I used to work on the salmon farms as I was searching for sustainability, and it was just repeating the same mistakes in different ways. So our model, very small footprint. At the same time, it's zero inputs. So we only grow species that require no fresh water, no animal feed, no fish feed, no fertilizer. And it makes it the most sustainable food on the planet. And it's going to be the most affordable food on the planet someday because the price of moving water in the era of drought, the price of using fertilizer, which is getting more and more expensive, land, we're running out of arable land, zero input food is going to be food not just for the elite restaurants, but it's going to be sort of the Gordon's fish stick of the future. So, and then the other thing is our farms restore rather than deplete. So no, it's not just not putting, zero inputs, but also our kelp soaks up 5 times more carbon than land-based plants. So I think of our transforming the fishermen into climate farmers, where they can actually not only adapt, but help address issues of climate change. Our oysters soak up nitrogen, which is the cause of dead zones. And then the whole farms function as artificial reef systems. So as our coral reefs and oyster reefs disappear, we need new foundations for the whole ecosystem to thrive. So now the best fishing in the whole area is on my farm.
Wow.
And I think that's key. Well, it's not just sustainable, but going beyond restorative and figuring out new systems.
I was just going to say, so you're almost rebuilding part of the ocean and its ecosystem. You've been very frank in some of your talks about what we've done to this planet, and particularly the oceans. I mean, I think I'm going to quote you, you said, we've screwed things up.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can't get more blunt than that.
Yeah.
But we really have, haven't we?
Yeah, and I say that based on experience. This isn't theoretical. As shell fishermen and now ocean farmers, we're on the front lines of climate change. Acidification and water temperature increases is driving lobsters, for example, north out of in my hometown. It used to be a huge thriving industry. Now you cannot find a lobster anywhere. Acidification is weakening oyster shells. 1 out of 4 marine species are expected to die go into extinction in the next 100 years. I mean, this is crisis time. And so, I'm not an environmentalist as a background. I've just confronted the environmental limits and crises we're facing.
Do you see enough being done, in your line of work? Or is there still a resistance from traditional fishermen and industries?
Yeah.
Are they still saying, no, we're doing it fine?
Yeah. I think there are a couple points of resistance. I mean, first, I was getting laughed off the water when people started, fishermen found out I was growing plants. Like we chase and hunt things for a living, right? I grew up clubbing seals, But, and that's our background. But now I'm like a farmer at sea. I will just say this thing, which is the potential here is gigantic. There are 10,000 edible plants in the ocean. This is just the beginning of an exploration of, imagine being a chef and having never seen arugula, tomatoes, kale, like being introduced to these new vegetables. It's such an exciting time, but at the same time scary. But you asked about some of the stumbling blocks. So I think fishermen want to stay the same course, many, but they're running out of fish. So we had a meeting last year, and just a little local meeting, and 40 fishermen showed up. And that was stunning, and it's mainly because their nets are coming up empty. I think there's resistance from the ocean conservation world, who really want to, which I believe in, is create massive conservation zones. And these are good things. The trouble is they don't confront the realities of climate change unless we have these engines of remediation and restoration, which soak up carbon, deal with nitrogen, but also feed the planet. That we could set aside the entire ocean and it's still going to die. Right? You need to incorporate these new crises we face of climate change, acidification. And I understand where they are, in terms of fear of developing the oceans, and their experience with aquaculture was so bad, as was mine. But we need to find this sweet spot between conservation and sort of restorative techniques. And what I see in the future is of small-scale ocean farms surrounded by conservation zones. The ocean farms are the engines of restoration while we protect huge swaths.
Yeah, if it's replenishing the ocean, then it just makes sense. So it still has to make money. Yeah. It still has to be profitable. Yeah. And therefore, sometimes businesses are willing to sacrifice the environment to make that extra buck.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is this a viable business that people can, profit off of, as well as saving the planet?
Yeah. So I think we don't know yet. Because sea vegetables especially, we can make some money on shellfish, some of the products we're growing on the farm, but I think sea vegetables are the game changer, betting those, because we can grow such a high volume. If you were to take a network of the farms totaling the size of Washington State, you could feed the world. right? We can grow an incredible amount of food, and it's cheap to grow because I don't have to feed it, right? It's sort of a lazy job. All I have to do is go out once every 2 weeks and make sure my lines are at the right height, so it's getting the right level of light and nitrogen and things like that. So I think, I think the possibility is huge. What we need to do is create value-added products. So take this, we do a kelp noodle, for example. We have these noodle machines, and we cut it up, and you get kind of a fettuccine noodle, and it freezes very well because kelp freezes and thaws naturally in its environment. So it stays al dente, and it's a really sort of successful dish that we do in
I know
New
you
York.
have kelp cocktails and kelp ice cream, and you know, being of Asian background, Korean, we eat seaweed all, and it's highly nutritious.
Exactly.
We make seaweed soup for pregnant mothers because it's such good nutrition. It's almost like an image thing. People have to understand, you know, the taste of it and the, you know, what you can do with it, really.
And we're trying to de-sushify seaweed for American palates. Right. I mean, you know, places like Noma and Copenhagen are the whole idea is to create a new indigenous diet based on what we're able to grow. Everything is imported, and imported food isn't, it's a great thing, right? The trouble is we can't be shipping food hundreds, you know, thousands of miles and things like that, and we need to grow it sustainable. So we're trying to de-sushify it. So we like kelp because it doesn't taste like seaweed when it's cooked. It's a great entrance point. The other thing about these farms is it's not just food. We love sea vegetables because we can turn it into biofuel. We turn it into fertilizer. We turn it into animal feed. I mean, animal feed's fascinating. If you feed cows majority kelp diet, there's a 90% reduction in methane output.
Oh my gosh!
And fish feed and animal feed are really unsustainable. It's all corn and soy or wild fish.
Right.
So here we have plant zero inputs, and we're feeding it to our protein. But we can do ocean-based biofuel and just not run into any of those problems. We also use it in pharmaceuticals, cosmetics. So they're at every point of the value chain or leftover pieces of kelp. It can go somewhere. We actually have farms just in polluted areas, and all they do is soak up heavy metals, nitrogen, river here. And then that goes into biofuel. So we're actually, it's just remediation, stays out of the food system, but we can clean up our harbors with it. So it's the versatility and all these possible avenues of income, which I think reduces risk, but and really makes it a powerful engine.
Amazing versatility. I had no idea. So nature seems to have the answer for everything, but we, like you said, we've screwed it up. But now you are trying to fix it.
And I see, you know, my role is just to nurture and to figure out how to grow these good, beautiful things. And then, you know, make sure it's healthy, and just species selection is key. I mean, in some ways, we're trying to not make all the mistakes that were made on land. Stay away from monoculture. We want to protect our seed base, so it's not privatized. We want to make sure that leasing systems and land ownership, you have access for beginning farmers and new farmers, all these different elements. This is our chance to rethink it and do it right.
And to think, like you said, you were 14 years old, dropped out of high school, and now you're here at CGI, about to receive an award from President Clinton.
Life is weird.
Go figure.
Life is weird, Did
you even imagine that anything like this would happen?
No, nothing. Not for a minute. Not for a minute.
So what's next for you then?
Well, so we started a nonprofit called Greenwave, and Greenwave's role is to replicate the farms. So we have 8 new farms started, and it's both on the East Coast, and then we're starting some on the West Coast. And then build infrastructure. So we have a hatchery that we've built, and we're building a seafood hub. It's the country's first seafood hub, which will do the processing, develop the value-added products, do the fertilizer, biofuels, kelp noodles. It's sort of an incubator space. And we trust spinning out of that will be all these entrepreneurial efforts of people. Like, so I had a kid. We work at the Bridgeport Sound School, which is an inner city school. I had a kid take my kelp and invent a 12-volt kelp-powered biodegradable battery.
Out of kelp?
Yeah, so like it's just, you know, like I can't even imagine what people are going to do, and hopefully I'll disappear at some point, and people will run with this and make the model better and just innovate. But so infrastructure, and then the third piece is market development. So our farmers need stable markets just as they grow. And so we're working with a whole bunch of other institutions, Google and other places, to create a stable market for our farmers. I'll say that our farmer training program is, what we offer is a grant for each farmer, about $1,000. They get free seed. They get free gear from Patagonia. They get 2 years of consulting so that my team can pass on the mistakes that we made over 15 years so they can scale up very quickly. And then we promise to buy 80% of everything they grow.
Oh, wow.
So the farmers just have a guarantee that they'll be okay for 3, 4, 5 years, which just stabilizes them and will mean they'll be able to be successful. And then our support will, but they'll be, off and running.
So kind of low risk to get into it.
Yeah, because farming is really, really hard. Working with Mother Nature is wonderful and difficult.
Yeah.
And we need the farmers both to stabilize that risk and own more of the value chain. For generations, farmers and fishermen have been selling raw products, and it's a beggar's game, quite honestly. Like, the fishermen need to own and have the infrastructure to develop that. And so we're also organized under a co-op model, which is helpful because it allows us to share resources, to pool our crops so we can supply to big buyers.
Makes
stuff
sense.
like that. So we're just there's so much we don't know, and I think all of our work will look even different in 5 years, but this is sort of how we're beginning to piece it together. And what we're trying to do is build an industry from scratch.
Yeah.
In other countries, very often you take, say, the solar industry or actually the seaweed industry in Asia, and it's subsidized by the government with the trust that you're going to have all this economic activity that spins off, right? We don't do that very much in this country, for good or bad.
Yeah.
What Greenwave is trying to do is sort of replicate that. And so we take a mix of private investment, foundation money, individual donors, and try to piece together to recreate that. We'll build a foundation with just the trust that it's going to take off after that.
But it makes sense, if you have that kind of cooperation from all sides, then a better chance to be successful that way.
Exactly, exactly.
And you're leading the way, Bren, so congratulations on that. We look forward to hearing much more about what you're doing.
Thanks so much. Honored to be here.
Yeah, thank you. From the demands on our oceans to the rapidly growing demand for renewable energy on land, more and more people are turning towards the sun as a safe, clean power source. In homes, solar panels can help save money on energy costs and help conserve the planet's resources. But some homeowners resist solar energy because initial costs are high and the panels themselves are physically unappealing. However, some collegiate designers from schools across the U.S. are trying to change that. They're competing in a nationwide contest to see who can build the most attractive, cost-effective, and solar-efficient home. Full-frame contributor Sandra Hughes takes a look at the competition.
It's down to the wire for students competing in the U.S. Department of Energy's biennial solar decathlon. Collegiate teams spend 2 years building solar-powered homes and then must reassemble them in just 9 days.
Are you nervous?
We are nervous. We're excited though at the same time. We're just so excited that we built our house from the ground up.
This year, the competition is in Irvine, California. Each of the 14 solar homes are paid for by student fundraising.
So a team not only needs a good set of architects and engineers to design the house, but these are multidisciplinary teams, and the best ones have a couple of business students, MBA students maybe, to help them do fundraising. They have good communicators because they've got to get their story out. They need interior decoration, they need landscape engineers.
And of course, they need solar panels.
These are zero net energy houses. They produce as much or more of the energy they need to run their house and an electric car with the solar systems that are on their house.
The houses are small in size but big in innovation. Take the home made from shipping containers.
We're using the shipping containers because of their transportability, their stability, and the fact that they won't deform while we transport.
But they're also pretty cool visually, which is one of the ways the houses are judged. The team that best combines affordability, consumer appeal, and superior optimal energy production and maximum energy efficiency is deemed the winner.
It is hard to choose a winner. They're all got some great ideas, something to learn from. They're all beautiful, certainly in my eyes. But the competition is set up to do point scoring. And although a winner wins, I mean, we always say everybody wins.
The 14 decathlon homes are as unique as the students who built them. From the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States to Europe to Central America. The one standard they all had to try to aim for was a $250,000 budget, which we found wasn't easy.
We broke a little bit out of the $250,000 budget just to be able to implement some more interesting design as well as more interesting engineering systems throughout the homes.
Our house is just under 1,000 square foot. It's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and the cost is roughly around $300,000.
A West Coast team built a home for farm workers with a very unique cooling and heating system.
The key is what we're calling night sky cooling. This utilizes a 1,500-gallon rainwater reservoir on the side of the home. We pump that through sprinklers onto the roof during the night, 7 hours a night, every night. By doing so, we take advantage of the unique atmospheric conditions of the western coast of America, and we can chill that 1,500-gallon reservoir by up to 20 to 40 degrees. By doing so, we've completely eliminated an air exchange system in this home. We've replaced it with a water-based radiant solution in our floor slab.
An East Coast team wanted to meet the needs of homeowners who could experience flooding, like what happened after Hurricane Sandy. It's airtight when all the panels come down.
Yeah, we designed it as a flood-proof prototype, specifically for a 5-foot flood, and we have various systems that can deploy and various construction methods that we've actually adopted from the marine boating industry that we've implemented into our architecture to help protect the home and have it stand the best chance of surviving the next 100-year storm we might face.
But it's still a house built for coastal living. It is a beach house. You're sandy, you're dirty, you come in, and this is the bathroom that you come into. Absolutely. And I find this really cool. What's going on in here?
So we designed this kind of indoor-outdoor shower that flows right off of our deck, so you can come back after the beach, you're sandy, you can wash off. There's even a little foot washing station down there.
They even built cell phone charging stations into the kitchen island.
So we've actually integrated into this countertop induction charging, so wireless charging capability, so you can plop your phone down, phones that are capable to do it, and they'll just start charging right away.
Despite all the cool technology and sustainability, none of the concepts are out of reach.
We call it sort of these are houses of the future that you can live in today.
The winner doesn't get money or a gold medal, just a trophy and the pride that comes from knowing they've built something very, very special that can possibly, someday, help save the planet. For Full Frame, this is Sandra Hughes in Irvine, California.
Coming up next, saving a nation from the devastating impact of global climate change. The remote, low-lying South Pacific island nation of Kiribati is facing a life-or-death situation. With few natural resources and poor infrastructure, it's plagued by rising sea levels, water contamination, and pollution. High tides, partly due to climate change, have destroyed homes and resources crucial to the island's livelihood. But one woman is determined to improve sustainability in order to save those who live on the island and their culture. Pelanize Alofa is a tireless activist who serves as the national coordinator of the Kiribati Climate Action Network. I spoke with Pelanize at the 2015 Clinton Global Initiative about the human impact of climate change and how sustainability could help save this nation. Pelanize, I think you are a powerful spokesperson when it comes to climate change because where you are from, Kiribati, is dealing with it on a daily basis, isn't it?
Yes. We live with it.
Yeah. Tell me what that is like. What is life like on those islands dealing with climate change?
Our islands are very low.
Yeah.
Like the highest point is 3 meters above sea level. And they're very narrow. So you have the lagoon on one side, you have the ocean on the other side. Narrow, it may be like only 50 meters. And some will be just, you know, like 2 meters. That's maybe at the end of the islands, and then we are connected between islands to islands through the causeways. That means they build not bridges, but they build land, you know, to connect or build the road between one island to another. But with the sea level rise is, I think, one of the big challenges right now.
Right.
And people said, but how do you measure the sea level when it's coming up? How do you measure? Do you see it coming up? You know, can you measure it? And I said, no, we cannot. But we can. We measure the sea level rise by the destruction that it has on, you know, when the coconut trees are falling, when the pandanus trees are falling, you know, one after another, or rows of coconut trees all fell, then we know the water has come up, you know, and it's coming up. And in most islands, it has come up like 10, 20 meters inland. So you're losing land. I found that a lot of things happened this year. In February, then 2 weeks after that, we have the aftermath of the cyclone Pam. If you have heard of cyclone Pam that hit Vanuatu really badly, you know, part of it came to Kiribati. And because it's a low island, it just washed up. You know, a lot of our southern islands, a few islands, they just wash up everything.
So, Pelenise, how are you supposed to maintain any kind of normal lifestyle when this continues to happen? And the predictions are it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
Yes, the thing is, when you come to Kiribati, people are very contented and they're happy, even though there's climate change impacts. They continue to live a daily life and continue to adapt to whatever is happening. So people say, oh, they're okay. No problem. But our people are just like that. The whole Pacific people, they're very peaceful. And they just see there's a problem. They try to fix it there and continue to live.
But is it an issue that they don't have any other choice? They don't have anywhere else to go? They don't have the means?
No, we do not have a place to go, even though some countries have offered to help, like Fiji, you know. But most people say, no, we don't go, you know. Our elders will say, why do we have to go somewhere else? Maybe you younger people move, but for us, we just stay here. This is where we were born, and we'll just stay here and die here.
I have moved 3 times. Every 3 years I moved. My place house is about 20 meters from here, 15 meters to 20 meters from where I'm standing. After another 3 years, I have to move away from here and build another home there.
And that's your house just over the sea wall?
Yeah, that's my last house. I'm not quite sure how long I will be there. But that depends on how strong my seawall here will stand high tide waves. Nothing we can do about it.
I know for you, you obviously are very driven and passionate about trying to make something change so that your lifestyle, your home can be preserved. And so you started the Kiribati Climate Action Network.
Yes.
Tell me about the mission of this group and what it is that you're trying to do exactly to try and solve this.
We're trying to build resilient people. First of all, we have to deal with our people. The center of our organization is people. We build resilient people so that they can continue to live and adapt on their own land. Well, let's do whatever we can to stay. But if we have to go, at least in my country right now, we say we move with dignity. No one wants to move as refugees. That's the word. It's almost like a taboo word. You don't say it in Kiribati. And that's why, if we're going to be refugees, we better not move. We just stay, you know. If they're going to accept us as climate citizens, you know, and give us citizenship straight away, then we're happy. But just to push us out, to move us, and say, okay, these are the refugees who have come from Kiribati. No, that's for us, it's very degrading.
Right.
Because there's no war in our country. We're not fighting anybody, you know. We are very peaceful. We are contented where we are, but then we may have to move. That's why.
But I have to wonder, does it make you angry that you're losing your country in this way that you can't control, but it is the cause, it's a man-made issue, climate change, you know, because of the greed, however you want to phrase it, because of greed, because of corporate greed, because people are being selfish and not caring for the planet, you may lose your home.
I'm angry. You're asking whether I'm angry. You know, angry, maybe it's not a word I would use. It's just
frustrated,
maybe? Disgusted with people who cannot make decisions.
What do you think it's going to take for them to listen?
If it touches their life, that's when they change. But if it doesn't touch their life and their own families, then they don't care.
And that's disappointing, isn't it? Again, that's a sort of a selfish mentality. If
it is.
I'm
That's
not
why
affected by it.
Angry, yes. I think for many of us, we've been angry for so many years that we just say, forget it, we just continue to work because, you know, maybe somebody will come up that will listen.
People can hear these messages over and over again, but do they actually take action?
I wouldn't know how the action will be. The message is really to the political leaders, you know, those who are making decisions and policies.
I know you have to remain hopeful. You have to, right? You can't give up because this is your home you're talking about. But are you also really fearful?
We are really uncertain, and we are maybe fear is it's not a word I have. It's really just frustration right now, because all we want is somebody, one strong leader to come up and say, and I am betting on America to do that, because no one can do it. America is, you know, a superpower. Whoever wants to say I am, no, we know that America is a superpower right now, and they're the ones who can finish it. I was happy to see that there are so many business people around here. Because the other thing is, climate change also offers opportunities. It's not just insecurity, you know. It is an opportunity for us and for these people to work together in partnership and actually work together to create a better, you know, environment for everybody.
Right. Pelanese, thank you so much for speaking to us about this, because it's obviously an issue that affects you every day.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
It's not all right, so hopefully everybody will jump on that bandwagon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be right back with this week's Full Frame Close-Up. Could the Earth be entering a mass extinction that could wipe out several species? Well, some scientists say yes, and they say it's because of humankind. Former National Geographic photographer, author, ocean conservationist, and Oscar-winning film director Luis Sahoyas believes the solution starts with us. In his latest documentary, Racing Extinction, he exposes the issues surrounding endangered species and mass extinction. Full Frame caught up with Louis to find out how we need to change the way we live, eat, act, drive, and work in order to create a sustainable Earth.
name is Louis Sahoyes. I'm in the Save the World business. I mean, I started out doing environmental photography, still photography at National Geographic. I loved working for them. It was, you know, I thought I had the best job in the world. You know, we traveled around with, until I started becoming a filmmaker. The leap from still photography to filmmaking was primarily because I thought it was more interesting. You could tell a more complicated story. I mean, I felt I was at the, you know, near the top of my field doing what I did as a still photographer, but without words, without music, it's harder to reach a lot of people. There's something that happens when you put the images up against these buildings. And at St. Peter's in the middle of the day, people were crying. It was just so beautiful. It was a very powerful event. You see the sea of cell phones lighting up. It's extraordinary. People want to document it. They want to share it. They're crying. They're laughing. They're excited. So the films I make tend to make people want to feel. You have to do that right off the bat. The Cove ostensibly is about this Japan where they herd up dolphins for the captive dolphin trade and then they slaughter the rest of them that they aren't using.
They take the boats around to the secret cove that nobody could see. They're afraid of cameras.
With the next film, we really wanted to take on the biggest story in the world. And that's how, you know, mankind is causing the 6th mass extinction on the planet.
What's happening now is unprecedented in Earth's history.
Why would we want to disrupt something that took billions of years to evolve?
We all want to do good. We all want to leave the world a little bit better place, I think. Either through your children or your work or whatever, but when you're trying to do massive social change, you need to hit that tipping point.
When you're talking about losing all of nature, it's not a spectator sport anymore. Everybody has to become active somehow.
If you can reach people, you can change them.
We can make this happen. We need people to understand it's worth doing.
My mission is to create social change. If you look at the Cove, Racing Extinction, they're all built, they're all designed to basically be like boot camp for the soul. I love the oceans. I always wanted to be an oceanographer. So I moved the family down to Antigua, and we lived on the ocean. And I was writing a book, Hunting Dinosaurs. And I'd drop the kids off. I'd go write for 4 or 5 hours. I'd go pick them up, and then we'd go out in the water and dive and fish back then. And it was idyllic. It was one of the best, years of my life. I've been all around the world to some of the best dinosaur sites, digging up dinosaurs with some of the most famous paleontologists of our day. There's a dinosaur named after me. It's called Baby Louie. It was the biggest known dinosaur egg at the time. There was a friend of mine, Charles McGovern, who was, basically preparing these things. One of them had broken open and they found an embryo, a fossilized embryo inside. And I don't know quite what kind of a dinosaur it was, but it was probably really vicious. Geologically speaking, we're rapidly destroying our life support system on the planet. And I'm not saying we're going to run out of oxygen in our generation, but we're certainly making it harder and harder for everything else to survive. We're trying to mitigate a disaster. We can't rely on our kids to save the planet.
Well, that's it for this week. Join the conversation with us on social media. We are CCTV America on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And now you can watch Full Frame on our new mobile app, available worldwide on any smartphone for free. Get the latest news headlines and connect to us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Weibo. Search CCTV America on your app store to download today. And of course, all of our interviews can still also be found online at cctv-america.com. And let us know what you'd like us to take Full Frame next. Simply email us at fullframe@cctv-america.com. Until then, I'm May Lee in Los Angeles. We'll see you next time.